Yeah, let's do it. I didn't even notice.
Where's DK? Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin. Look, Glenn, it is the end of the beginning. This is what this is, right? Like
the end of the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, this is the beginning of the season.
Got you.
And this is now the end of it. Like, training camp is over. We're going to talk about the joint practice, obviously, and then it's the last preseason game. And Glenn, we are officially under 2 weeks away from live NFL action. Not just live NFL action, your Baltimore Ravens.
Against the Chiefs.
Against the Chiefs. And I tell you what, we got a lot to talk about in preparation from that. Most likely, in my opinion, the notes from this game and from this joint practice are probably closest to real live action that our starters have gotten. So I'm excited to talk about it. Amongst other things, of course, we have the one and only Cole Jackson hopping on here in a few minutes. We're going to talk all things O-line and Ravens in general, but we're excited to get into it. So, Glenn, where do you want to start, dude?
Well, of course, we have to do our due diligence and mention our sponsor.
Let's do it.
Bringing this show to us is BetOnline. It's the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the preseason of NFL to college kickoff, BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor pool for the upcoming season. When the games are over, head on over to the online casino, get in and hand a blackjack, some poker, or unwind in over 150 slot games. Head to the website today. Use promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here.
Glenn, have you ever thought about doing one of those Survivor pools? I think for some reason, you'd be pretty good at it.
Yeah, I've done them. I do pretty good. It's just it's that one that you never see coming. You know, back in the day, the Patriots losing to the damn shit Dolphins. It just blows it all up.
Was that the Kendrick
Oh, it was when Brian Fitzpatrick beat him.
Oh, wasn't that the helmet pull one?
His ass. Might have been where this helmet was sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's been a couple doozies out there. But yeah, I've never won one, but I've done okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you do well. All right. Well, let's do this thing.
Look, we're gonna get into a lot of the practice notes, certainly from the joint practice, but we don't want to keep our guests waiting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking.
Let's hit right to an old friend of the show, welcoming back Cole Jackson. Welcome back to the show, sir.
I missed you guys.
Yeah, you too. How you doing, man?
Oh, film's coming out, so I'm happy. Finally back in my element. Channel's been doing really good. A lot of support. I had a couple comments last week saying I came over from 410 Sports Talk, so thank you to you boys for sending them over.
Absolutely.
No, it's been great. It's been great. It's been a really fun preseason. Obviously, it hasn't been perfect, but that makes for fun film study.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Got to have something to talk about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Got to.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it, and I want to start at the spot everybody wants to start, and we got some other stuff we want to get into, but we got to talk offensive line.
I'm so glad you went here, Glenn.
Yeah, I mean that's what everybody wants to talk about, and so I got a bunch of questions, but I want to start with something that I thought, and I was quickly shot down, said it had nothing to do with it. It's totally different, and this could be your opinion too, Cole, but let me know. With all the shuffling around, I'm going to start here and then we can go wherever you want. But did Linderbaum's injury that made Ben Cleveland, it looked like made Ben Cleveland go in at center, did that at all affect Faalele in that Ben Cleveland was now forced to play center, couldn't directly compete for right guard for at least that 2 weeks? Did that aid in Faalele in any way?
I don't think so. Honestly, I can't figure out the Ben Cleveland thing.
What do they hate about this guy?
It's kind of like last year in the preseason when he started playing right tackle. And who was it? The year before Ben Powers started, so 2021, 2021, he came out and was taking snaps at center. And I remember saying, when you start to see guys move around to different positions and the coaches are trying to see if they have versatility. We kind of did it with Tyree Phillips a little bit, because one of the best ways to maintain a roster spot as a reserve offensive lineman is to be able to play multiple positions. You only have 8 guys active on game day. So if I usually want a center guard, a guard tackle, a McCary who can play anywhere. Those are valuable because if you lose 2 guys in a game and I don't have a tackle, you could literally run out of tackles, right? So that's when I start to see that type of stuff, I get a little nervous just because it's like, well, it's almost like they're trying to test versatility to justify a roster spot. And I remember thinking that last year with Ben Cleveland, I was like, why the fuck is he playing right tackle? He doesn't have the skill set for it. He's never really done it. Like it never made sense to me, but that is a way for coaches to be like, okay, he can do it in a pinch. And that's what I took away from the set. Like the priority is who's competing for the starting spots. Like you could play McCary at center. You could play Nick Samac. If they were that worried about having a center, they could just sign a camp body, right? Like there's a couple duds out there that could come in and just play the position. It's like signing John Kelly, right? Like John Kelly's not making this team, but they need someone to come in and eat snaps during preseason games. Like it's almost one of those weird things where obviously there's guys competing for roster spots, but then there's just like a lot of dead weight, like all these tight ends that why would you sign here as a UDFA tight end, right? Like you're not going to make the team, but obviously they're competing for practice squad spots. But I'm just saying, like there's certain guys that aren't actually competing for the 53, and they're just trying to like find an NFL job. So all that to say, I can't figure out the Ben Cleveland thing. Like if I had seen Ben Cleveland in games be bad, like I mean bad, I would get it. But like he's never really been bad when he's been in a game for the Ravens. He's they don't like him. They think he's soft, obviously. Jeff Zrebic kind of tweeted it today. Just basically spoke to his practice efforts and his physicality, which to me, that's talking about him being soft. So I think he just fell out of favor with the coaching staff and they just aren't giving him an honest look. That's kind of my takeaway.
Yeah. Just as a side note, Faalele broke the grit machine.
Did he?
Yeah, he threw up an error.
I believe it. I'm not shocked.
Yeah, that's that.
I think see Daniel Faalele on a bicycle, and I'm upset about it. So
I know, seriously, dude. Could you imagine? Oh my goodness, dude. That's that Polynesian steroid, dude. That's the old taro root, man. Tell you what.
Taro root.
That's right. That's the polysteroid. The Samoan steroid. So it's called. Anyway, I want to talk about that. Glenn kind of introed that. What's been your take so far? This has been my take from afar. There's just simply been a lot of ups and downs. He looks like he just simply needs more reps, more experience.
Pass pro has been good. I really don't have an issue with his pass pro. I did a video on him this week. He has 1 pressure allowed in the 2 games, and I find that he's using his length really well inside. He's really his hand placement's been really good, which was a struggle at tackle. So I find he's dealing with the quickness really well. There's been a few things that make me a little nervous. If he gets out into a kick block or a kick step where he's getting out wide, he tends to turn inwards tends to turn outwards like you're going to push someone out the back of the pocket, which he did a lot at tackle. And that can just be a little like, that's where you get guys rolling up into your tackle's legs and that sort of thing. So there's still some tackle habits, I'll call them, that I find are showing themselves when he's playing guard. And that can be something that he needs to adjust to. But overall, his pass pro, in my opinion, has been pretty good. His run blocking, he struggles to get his pad level down. He's 6'8". I think he could still stand to lose a little bit of weight. But it really comes down, and if you guys remember last year, anytime we talked about him, the same fundamental issue is he doesn't get out of his stance quick enough. And that really showed itself. There was one clip, I spent like 5 minutes on one clip because it just really hammered home my issue with him in the run game. He had a 3-tech, so a defensive lineman lined up between the guard and the tackle, and it was zone left. So he's essentially just passing him off to Roger Rosengarten or whoever the right tackle is. And even off the snap, the defensive lineman didn't go to cross his face, and he still didn't, like, he lost leverage on the inside. So he just does these little things where he's just slow off the snap, and it's little stuff like that with this team trying to run more zone concepts that if he doesn't get those down, he's going to blow up a lot of runs. So that's the kind of stuff that makes me worried. It's a consistent problem that's been around since he was drafted. It just hasn't gotten better. It's kind of like the weight issues. Like, I find he really has had 3 years to kind of overhaul his body composition, and I find he hasn't, which has been troubling. So At the end of the day, he's been a far better guard than a tackle. I don't even think it's really a debate. And I find his pass pro has been good. So, I mean, I see a lot of the hyperbole out there of he's going to get Lamar killed. And it's like, well, he might blow up the run game, but, his pass pro has been good. Like, I haven't really had major concerns. There hasn't been one time where we're like, oh, shit, he just got his ass whooped and, the quarterback got hit. That hasn't happened once. So, overall, we'll see what happens when we get those quicker starters in there. But, the run game, it still makes me nervous.
So, basically, we were running left.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
when you're not pulling them,
when you're running zone, it doesn't matter, right? Like your zone unit, everybody's got to make their block. I did a video on the run game this week because people were asking, and most of his like power or like gap blocks have been fine. It's when they get into zone, and it's those types of zone blocks where one guy can be the guy consistently missing his block and then blowing up the entire play. You can't really run away from them in zone. You can a little bit in gap.
Gotcha. Now it looks like Rosengarten has been more. I guess he's been more impressive. I guess is the only way to put it. This guy's been showing off his athleticism. I mean, he's been moments.
A fucking poster on the wall.
I know you have a man crush. I expect you to have your fresh tattoo like shining on your bicep of his face.
And
I know you've been loving it. And there was maybe some moments where you could see that maybe strength is something he needs to continue to work on, which should be no surprise from a rookie. But just tell us exactly your thoughts on Roger thus far.
Smooth as butter in pass pro. And so it's not just that he's winning his reps. Last year, every time I came in here and we talked about what happened if we had bad pass blocking, it was always about Todd Monken isn't going to help his tackles. He wants to get 5 guys out in patterns. And so we were always asking Stanley and Moses and McCary when he's in, they have to go out and make single blocks. Like they're not going to get tight end chips. He didn't want to use running back protections. And now you have, as long as Ronnie's healthy, 2 offensive tackles that thrive in space and guys that can get out into pass blocks, true pass sets. And, they don't have to work off play action. They just are straight up pass blockers. And so for your bookends, that gives me a lot of confidence. He's going to have some issues with some power rushers. There's going to be some guys that can run through his anchor. I've actually been pretty impressed with his anchor in pass pro. It was something that I thought was going to struggle more than I've seen, especially when you look at a guy like Vorhees, where he has struggled a little bit with that, but his hand placement's so clean. He's had some power issues in the run game for sure, but his pass blocks are just like, there's a bunch of film experts out there like Brandon Thorne that are just gushing over his pass sets. Like they're that good. So to see that so early, I am concerned that they're going to start McCary week 1, just based off some things I've heard and kind of what the lineup was this week. They had Nick Samac in at center and McCary at right tackle for their first unit. And it's just one of those things. Like I kind of remember when Orlando Brown Jr. was a rookie and they started James Hurst until the bye week, and it pissed me off every week. And then of course Orlando Brown Jr. takes over and is way better than James Hurst was. So I hope we don't get there, but I'm concerned.
Why would they, Cole? If you put yourself in their mind, in their heads.
I mean, I'm not really justifying it, but it's just one of those, they don't want to start a rookie on the road at Arrowhead week 1.
Yeah.
But I mean, Nate Wiggins.
I don't agree with it, right? Just to be clear. Nate Wiggins probably won't start, right? Like he's probably going to get the Marlowe treatment where, it's going to probably be, you'll probably have Stevens and Marlon and then Pepe in the slot when Kyle Hamilton's not in the 3 safety look. So that's like Nate Wiggins will play, like he'll play in the game. We could see, wouldn't shock me with this team, but we could see a rotation at right tackle, which it's so rare in the NFL. Like you don't see other teams doing it, but the Ravens do have a tendency to do it. But at that point, I don't give.
What's the point?
What's the point? Like, what are we? I understood it with Morgan Moses because he had a torn pec. Like they're literally trying to get him through every game where they could just manage his pain tolerance on the bench. Like that made sense. Same with Ronnie when they were rotating Faalele and at left tackle. Like that to me is a reasonable. You have a rationale for why you're doing it, but rotating your right tackles wouldn't make sense. McCary's not a better right tackle than Rosengarten. if I have to deal with some rookie bumps, I mean, he's got to learn them at some point. So I don't really care if it's week 1 against the Chiefs. Like, I can struggle through September. The Ravens were like 3-2 in the first 5 weeks last year. And they finished, top of the North, number 1 seed in the AFC. Like, I'm not saying I want to see them lose in September, but we can deal with some lumps. It's all about getting guys out there and being together. And that's something that, like, one thing I really like seeing, Faalele and Rosengarten and zone worked really well together. So, like, Faalele may still lose his block at the end, but they're working that combo really well together. And that's probably because they've been repping together. They've been healthy through the preseason. Even though McCary's played some right tackle, like, they've played a lot together. So that's why it sucks Linderbaum hasn't been around, just because we want those reps together with those guards. We want Vorhees playing with Lindy. And it's kind of the same thing on the other side. Like, the biggest thing about Ronnie Stanley, I don't know if we're going to talk about this, but the biggest thing about Ronnie Stanley is he has not had his practices managed like he did last year. Like, every week we'd start, Wednesday was a vet day or whatever. Haven't had that happen once. He hasn't played in the preseason, but a lot of vets haven't. But he's practicing every day. And I'm hearing nothing but good things. Like, he doesn't look like he's struggling. We're not dealing with a ramp up period. Like, he's ready to go week 1. We just got to lock his ass in a cryogenic chamber every, Sunday night and hope.
Ronnie's trying to get that next paycheck, dude. I tell you what,
right? Like, I money's a hell of a motivator.
Yeah,
so.
No, for sure. Now, I got to ask you this question. You kind of spoke to this, Cole, but Glenn and I are of the belief that you talk about taking lumps in September. One of the things that we are trying to do from an offensive line perspective is remember that we believe that this offensive line can be the most improved offensive line from week 1 to the end of the year, in that there's a lot of athleticism, 100%. There's a lot of size, and there's a lot of youth, right? So we think that their journey to December, January football can be great, exponential in their improvement. What's your take?
Yeah, versus like if you had an old group, they might start the season like gangbusters, but by week 16 they're falling.
Like,
off.
remember our pass rush when we had like Duverville and Suggs, and like early on they'd come out like, I don't know if Suggs had a December sack for the last 5 years in Baltimore or whatever. You come out on fire because he was older, right? Kind of that idea.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. And, I tweeted this the other day, and I think a lot of the evaluation of the offense, because everybody's talking about how the offensive line sucks. And it's not necessarily that it's all sunshine and daisies, but seriously, what the did people expect? Like, you have 3 new starters, 2 of which are like, Vorhees is a rookie. Like, let's be real. Like, 2 of which are rookies. Did you think it was going to be easy? Like, it's just one of those things where I sit back and I'm like, what were you expecting? It was the reason I wanted Zeitler back so bad. It was more just to be able to have kind of a bridge to get there. I think the way I wanted to go in the draft is I wanted a young tackle, which they got in Rosengarten. Perfect. Check the box. In that 3rd round, I really wanted Dominic Puny, Mason McCormick, a guy like that, to be a developmental guard behind a Zeitler, because he could kind of, take a little bit of time, compete with Vorhees at left guard. You have your steady vet, right? And then the big thing was you'd have left guard and right tackle as separate away from one another as you could be, where you're not replacing 2 tackles. And you have a vet, Ronnie, Lindy, Zeitler, helping them kind of assimilate into the game. So that, to me, was my biggest criticism of the offseason, because I thought that was like your perfect balance of getting younger, but also having vets to help, bridge that gap. And then if they were worried about the health situation, well, if Zeitler goes down, well, you have this younger guard that's been developing for a few weeks that's able to kind of step in. So, I mean, this is a young line. There's gonna be bumps. Like, it's not gonna be perfect. It makes for great offensive line comment. Be sure to subscribe. And it's gonna be fun to follow, but it's the success of this line isn't gonna be what they do in week 1. The success of this line is, can they get better every week? And I'm telling you, that's going to determine whether or not this team is playing football in January, and if that football in January is competitive.
Yeah. But as a follow-up to that, one of the things I want to get from you, though, is that, do you believe that these are the horses that can get it done, right? Like, from a capability standpoint, you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to be inexperienced, but it's also, because I'm of the belief that they can. Right. You know what I mean? Do you think that these guys can get it done, this group of guys, barring health?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I think the strength of your line they kind of have the, like, you can't have shit guards, like, so I'm not like giving them a pass, but the fact that, you know, your tackles and your center have pretty high potential, and especially in pass pro, because you know, all I'm reading about is like, we're gonna get Lamar killed. I mean, you know, I don't know if that's true. You know, Ronnie's Ronnie, so a healthy Ronnie's better than an unhealthy Ronnie. So I see an upgrade at left tackle. Rosengarten in the pass game specifically, I think, is going to be an upgrade over Moses, who is better in the run game than the pass game. Linderbaum is Linderbaum. So, you know, you're kind of 3 of your 5 positions have upgraded. Obviously, we're downgrading, especially in pass pro, from Kevin Zeitler. No doubt about it at right guard. But like John Simpson was dog shit in pass pro last year. So, you know, can Vorhees be better? He's really struggled last week against the Falcons. No doubt about it. We can talk a little bit about that more specifically, because his problem is so obvious that it's frustrating to watch, because like he does the same thing over and over again. And it's why he loses.
What's that?
Yeah, the hands, right? The hand
high wide hands. Like he's hitting. I think his problem is I saw it on his USC film too. I did a film room on him in the spring, just to kind of go back the year before and be like, here's this guy that we drafted last year, just so you know. And he played offensive tackle for the Trojans for like a year and a half, and then moved back into guard. And he's a shorter arm guy. He was lacking in athleticism as a tackle, and he would end up landing high hands a lot because he wanted to control the frame with his strength. And I'm seeing that manifest itself at guard, where his hands are landing top of the shoulder pads pretty consistently, and he's just turning his chest into like a sled. And so like that rep where he got walked by Ruri Oka. I can't. He's from
good
Clemson.
luck.
Yeah. Anyway,
good luck with that name.
Yeah, he's from Clemson. That's all I know. He was one of their. It was rookie. Sorry, rookie. So he literally just missed his hands high, stopped moving his feet, and he just hezzy stepped him, right? So he goes like that, hezzy steps him, and then you have no basis for leverage. But have seen plenty of snaps this preseason where he's got the cuffs on, his hands are cuffed in together, they're hitting that chest pad, he's hitting a good punch, and he's fine. And so it's going to come down to how quickly can he get his hands and feet in tune with one another. I think he's got the strength to do it. I think he's athletic enough to do it. It's really all mental to me, because that's not a fundamental, like that's not a hard issue to fix. But it's all about building consistency and how you apply your technique week to week. So
yeah, I mean, Glenn and I saw him get shucked.
Dude, it's funny, Cole. You talked about strength. I literally just got done telling Jimmy how he's like a 98 strength in Madden. We were at the practice. We were at it. I'm like, bro, he's 98 strength. He ain't never touched the field. That's how much respect they're giving him.
Thing that it started on Twitter where everyone's like, well, he's got no anchor. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, anchor isn't like if you lose a rep, you don't have a bad anchor. You have a bad anchor if you can't plant. Like if you
rushed and thrown.
Yeah, if you're just getting driven back. Anyway,
but he got absolutely tossed by Broderick right after I got done hyping up how strong he was. It was hilarious. It was like the timing couldn't be better. Jimmy's like, what the 98 strength? I mean, Brody made him look like a young man. Like I mean, we saw the bottom of his feet on one rep. Like,
it was exactly what you were saying, Cole. If I understood you correctly, like, because the way that he just shucked him with one hand, it was almost like an up and under in wrestling. Like his hands were just way too high, and he was overextended to the left. All his weight was on one foot, and Broderick could have pushed him with. Yeah, he just.
Patience with his punch is going to go a long way. Getting out in his stance, staying low, and being later to throw his hands out will go a long way. And because like if you go back and you watch that hezzy fake where he got walked for the sack, that's all it was. Is he went out and he sent his hands and he stopped moving his feet, and then he just literally sidestepped his hands because he's out over his feet. Like it's such a clear problem that it's how he's losing every single time. So.
We need to get Vorhees. We need to get Vorhees playing a little basketball, dude. You reach, that guy's going to teach, man. That's what it sounds like. He's reaching way too much.
Oh, he's reaching. It's a shame. We'll see. Like it's one of those things where like I can see why he'll get better, but will he actually? I don't fucking know. It's just I'm just here to show you what the problems are and how he can fix them. Whether or not he fixes. That's why it's so hard to give. People always want to know like is it going to be fixable? And it's like, well, like
everything's fixable, right? If you do it right.
It's like it's a technique issue. So of course it's fixable, but I'm not there every day seeing how his progress is going. That's the problem.
It certainly doesn't help with Joe D dealing with the health issues he's going through. As I know you've talked about the job that Joe D does, and it's certainly good. They're going to miss him. But I do want to get your take on the opposite side, because we are incredibly excited what we've seen from Trenton Simpson thus far. And look, it helps that Patrick Queen has purposely turned himself into a villain, even though he didn't have
the worst villain in the world.
Oh,
like one
worst.
day into being a villain, he was like, leave me alone.
Yeah, like he is. It's so fake. It's pathetic. Like you're not that guy, Pat Queen. We've said it many times. You're not that guy. But if you want to be that guy,
don't be a villain. You need therapy instead.
Well, it's just like he's trying too hard. It just comes off as poserish. But when it comes to Trenton Simpson, it does. Everyone's ready to say, and I think I'm jumping on board. He could be better right now than Patrick Queen. Is that crazy? And what have you seen from Trenton so far?
Oh, I love Simpson's game. Simpson's he's got to, work on his diagnostics and those things. But again, it comes down to expectations. I wasn't expecting him to, be able to, read gaps and go through his keys perfectly. That's going to come with time. It took Patrick Queen 4 years to kind of get that down pat. Mm-hmm. What I'm seeing is that like he is physical as all fucking hell. Like running into, a power run and just blowing up the guard, like shit that like Patrick Queen started doing towards the 4th year. To see Trenton Simpson doing it in the 2nd year, channeling that type of physical aggression beside Roquan Smith, he's going to be good. And him on the blitz game, like, remember the amount of twists we'd break down with Roquan and Trent working off each other. Just put him as a pass rusher with the explosiveness and the physicality. It's going to be really good. And I thought his pass pro was really good. He's carried a couple man coverages really well over the middle. I'm excited about him. I will say I'm hyped about him. Like I think he's going to be a very, very good football player by the end of next year.
Yeah, no, I'm excited as well. I mean, I think just like Glenn said, and you said as well, it's just a welcome sight to see a guy who is excited about being physical, who is naturally aggressive. And I think he's got the perfect defensive coordinator. I don't think he could have asked for a better situation to be, Zach Orr's been in this exact situation where you are the running mate to the head honcho. Like, let's just call it what it is, right? And, to have Roquan, who's the closest thing that I think we've seen in this league to Ray Lewis since Ray Lewis in both football play and personality. And then, to turn over and have to be the Zach Orr of this defense. Look, Zach Orr has been an all-pro in this scenario. So, I think Trenton Simpson, sky is the limit, man. I'm really, really looking forward to this combination. I think it really rounds out the defense.
Completely agree.
And then last thing for me, Cole, Nate Wiggins. I mean, the coaches couldn't ask for more, right? Just throw at him as soon as he gets on the field, and he just has
what a debut.
It couldn't have been better, right?
Wasn't expecting it, to be honest. Like I know he's good, but to be that good out the gate, like this kid's gonna be special. I think. Like I think he's gonna be.
But did the glimpse of what we did see, and then he made that great tackle on 3rd down, but then he comes up and he has is that also something that we might have to get used to seeing, where when he does support the run, there's a chance he could get banged up because of his slight frame?
Yeah, I mean he's undersized. Like it's something that could definitely happen, but it also seemed like a little bit of a freak accident. So is that going to happen, consistently? I'd say one good thing is he doesn't look nervous or shy in the run game. He's physical. And that was always my kind of take on him as a player when people would talk about his size. He doesn't play small. So, does he have durability? That's a whole other thing that's going to come with time. Again, I'd just be giving you kind of my prediction. Obviously, he's already gotten hurt, and it was a close call. Like, it could have been a really bad injury.
Shoulder.
Like it was scary for a few days. So, I think he's going to be all right. And I'm not worried about him in the run game. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. The thing I was surprised about, part of it was 2 things. One, based on because at this point I hadn't seen him in with my own eyes in real life. Like I'd seen him on TV, but not like with my own eyes. I was expecting his frame to be more slight than it was when we saw him at practice. He's definitely not a Emmanuel Forbes build. which is what I had in my head, right? Where Emmanuel Forbes, I think, has inverted kneecaps or something, right? Like the dude's knee pads don't even stick out. You know what I mean? Like he's that skinny. I just no other way to put it. It's just unfortunate, but he's so naturally physical. That's such a part of his game that I also wasn't expecting, partly because of my association to his smaller frame. I thought he'd be more of like a finesse player, but even in practice, we saw him, Glenn. I mean, he got called for a penalty where he was just along for the ride, right? With Kirkwood, I think it was.
Nah,
right?
it was Washington, the big.
What? Oh, right.
Tight
Yeah,
end,
it was
the tight
Washington.
end,
6'5", 240 or something like that.
Monster.
And he was like, well, I'm just going to hold the hell out of this dude until they say otherwise. But I'm okay with that because to me, I mean, we've seen this with Brandon Stevens and Marlon Humphrey. I personally, I could be totally wrong. I think it's easier to coach a guy to dial a guy back than it is to like, hey, you need to like engage more and be more physical. I just think it's easier to pull an athlete back than it is to push them, right? Like you should have a guy that you need to rein in a little bit. And I'm excited about that with his game outside of all the other ball skills we've already seen. But I think those two things are really important as far as his career in the NFL, his physicality, and then also the frame's fine. He's going to put on weight just fine. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But Cole, we appreciate you hopping on. Glenn, I don't know if you have any other questions.
No. It's good to see you again.
I do
Cole.
have one more question for you, Cole.
Oh, here we go. This is not football related, I bet. Go ahead.
So,
is this a heating pad? Yes, it is.
Oh, no. Well, I'd like to get your take. I put the number at 0 of the number of guys on the team that could beat me in a 5K.
Oh, here we go. Okay. He said no one's beating him in a 5K. I said that's high level.
I don't think anyone's running the 18-minute 5K on the Ravens.
The problem is, so I get what you're saying, because running a distance, like I have a bunch of buddies that I could crush in a 5K, but would kill me in like a sprint, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you run an 18-minute.
He's like, yeah, he had to throw that in, didn't he, Cole? He had to throw 18 in.
No, but it's a good point because that's not like I could go out and put down a 23-minute and they'd beat me, but that's a whole 5 minutes.
Well, and if I had 30 minutes, if I had 30 days, I could run 3 sub 6s for sure. Like I feel very confident. That was my only goal. But right now,
I run in kilometers, so I don't even know what.
Sorry, so about. Like. I don't know what that is in kilometers.
It doesn't matter. I think it'd be tough for those guys.
It's solely because of training.
Did they have 30 days? Like if I give Nate Wiggins 30 days, he's gonna.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it'd be close. I think last mile. Because last mile would be intense.
Like Jimmy runs fast, fast. So that's
but these guys are like incredible athletes. I recognize that. I think 60 days is the number I give them. If you give some of the DBs and wide receivers 60 days, I think that
it's just such a different type of athleticism. Like
different.
No one's beating anybody in a sprint, but a 5K it's a completely different type of run. So I think if they have time to prep, I think they could do it. But
I agree.
Right off, like if they just did it tomorrow morning, I think Jimmy's winning that.
And we're trying to find someone on the Ravens that I could beat in a sprint. And I thought I had Josh Johnson until I saw his last scramble. Damn it, he can beat me too.
You can beat Faalele.
You think? Okay, there we go, Jimbo. We got one.
And you know what?
He's 380, but
Ben Cleveland too. I give you a better chance against Ben Cleveland than Faalele.
No, that's a good point. Ben Cleveland ran like a 4.8.
Means nothing to me.
No, that means a lot to me. I'm done.
He ran a fast 40.
Dude, in 100 yards, Ben Cleveland ain't making it 100 yards.
Bro, I ain't making it 100 yards.
Glenn, think about the amount of blood and oxygen that needs to go to his massive muscles.
That's true.
Also, I have the trip locked down, boys. I'm coming down for the 7th.
Sunday night, right? Yeah. Sunday night.
No. Thursday night.
Bengals. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. Hey, is Elway getting 10 sacks or more? Last thing. Yes or no?
Who?
Elway. If he plays in at least
Elway. I thought you said Elway. I was like, I don't think he's getting 10. Elway, I'd take the under.
Looks like I'm running a 5K. That's my. If he doesn't get at least 10, I gotta run a 5K.
No, I think he's a pressure man. He's a Clowney.
But now but Clowney had double digit last year. Now he's taking Clowney's spot.
Yeah, but he's not as good as Clowney.
Ah, damn it, Cole.
I can see Ojabo going over 10 before Oweh. Different type of rushers.
Hey, is this sick, by the way? My penalty for losing is I have to run a 5K. Jimmy's penalty, if he loses, he has to eat a Baconator as a vegan. Is that wrong?
That's mean. That's mean. I love it though. I love it.
That's how confident I am, though.
He has to do. Oh, I'll have to come back down.
Yes.
I want to be there when he eats the Baconator.
Dude, no, I was gonna say you have to be there because the thing we should make it spicier. You and Glenn should race.
Oh, I beat Glenn.
Oh, you see?
I ain't worried about that.
Don't let me trade because I'm 6'3" and lanky. Let me tell you,
I met
can
you.
long
I was
stride.
the little guy. Jimmy's short too, but
Yeah.
you're like tall. So
I can stride, Cole. So be careful.
Let's
I'm a
go,
tall Canadian
dude.
though. I'm a very average size Canadian. We're tiny up here, you know.
I'm like an
Except for
average size
Urban.
point guard, but
Yeah.
they're tall. But thanks again, Cole.
Thanks,
appreciate
Cole.
you coming
Appreciate
on,
it.
and I'm
Appreciate
sure
you
we'll
guys.
talk soon.
Sounds good. Peace out,
Thanks,
guys.
buddy. Yep.
All right, Glenn, let's get these super chats. A few people have been waiting, and then I'm
I know.
gonna bounce. Are you gonna stay on after?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick around for a little while.
All right, cool. All right, let's get these super chats because DK is somewhere getting drunk. So
I know. What's up with him?
no, I'm kidding. I don't actually think we told him the time of the show.
Oops.
Yeah, that was on us. So James Henkel said, should we grab Tyree Phillips again? I think he's out there. Right tackle / right guard at least adds more depth. Cut Samac and Salah. You know what, Glenn? I don't hate this. I would cut Salah in a second if you're telling me we're getting Tyree Phillips.
Yeah, I don't mind the cutting of Salah. I do wonder if Tyree fits what they're doing now because he was a Greg Roman guy. But yeah,
but athlete, certainly he was an athlete. So
I can tell you, Salah's not fighting anyone off the depth chart. That's for damn sure.
No,
so
I agree.
Why not?
Mossy says, "Hey, Jason
McIntyre."
There you go. McIntyre sitting in for Cowherd. Had Lamar segment. He showed stat Lamar is winningest quarterback to never be in the Super Bowl. To be never in the Super Bowl. Can't excuse this. Is he saying I can't excuse this? As in like Lamar's not good, or like this is a ridiculous stat?
Or Jason
I think
shouldn't have put it up there.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous because every single year Lamar's gotten the playoffs, we've gotten deeper and deeper and deeper in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like all he's done is show progression. It's not like he's going backwards. Look, Jordan did the same thing.
Peyton Manning
did the same thing. Like, let's stop. This is
not everyone has instant success from a team perspective. He had instant success as an individual with winning MVP, but he didn't as a team yet. But
right. And things change at the drop of a hat. If you're saying Patrick Mahomes is the blueprint, and I know everybody wants to make him the next GOAT and things like that, but like, dude, for the next 10 years, Patrick Mahomes could very well never win a Super Bowl.
Good.
Right? And then what? Does he still go down the GOAT if in that same 10 years Lamar puts 2 up? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not fair. It's just.
And also, I would say that the fact that he's the winningest quarterback, like that, that's pretty damn cool, right?
It's up there.
He wins a lot. So that's the only way he can qualify to even be on this list is an absurd winning percentage.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's ridiculous.
I'll take it. And I'm fine with that. Maybe that's what Massey went. Also, none of the pundits have Ravens as a top 5 roster in the AFC. Most agree Chiefs, Texans, Browns, Bengals, Jets agree.
Well, I think the Jets are an unknown, and I don't know about their roster as a whole. I think the Bengals, it's inflated because everybody is all over Joe Burrow's comeback and he's going to be an MVP.
100%. I'd take the Bengals off that very fast.
Yeah, because
they've lost a lot of key players.
Right. Look at the guys that don't make the headlines. Look at the guys they've replaced them with. They're not. I don't think that the back end of that roster is great. I guess the Browns. I don't know.
Browns got a good roster, especially when you see what they did with wide receiver and adding Jerry Jeudy and still.
And is Chubb healthy? Do we know that?
I mean, he's already squatting like 1 million pounds. I mean, I don't know if he's going to play, but I do agree in that they do have I mean, if you look at just their defensive lineup, it's insane.
Yeah, they definitely agree. I agree they're the top 5.
The Bengals got to be. I would say the Bengals are out of there. Put the Ravens in there.
Yeah.
And the Texans are insane. Like their roster is insane.
They've converted to win now mode quickly because of their quarterback. Look, I am not a hater.
And the Chiefs roster doesn't impress me.
That's what I was just about to say in that, like, yes, you have an incredible quarterback. You have a Hall of Fame tight end. You have the best interior pass rusher in the NFL. But outside of that, like
they got great coaches, which matters. Right. Great
Marquise
offense.
Brown went down though.
Yeah.
Right. So like I know they got
Rashee Rice, who's got some legal issues, and who knows how that kind of all shakes out.
So of that, look, if refs start calling holding penalties on the Chiefs offensive line.
Oh, they got a great center, by the way.
Yeah, Creed Humphrey, who's not as good as Tyler Linderbaum.
That's fine.
But He's good.
But he's good. He's one of the best in the game.
He definitely is one of the best.
Now they're a good team, but they have the things that can overcome. And look, it's to their credit, really, because they're paying their quarterback and they're paying their D tackle a crazy man, and they're paying their tight end. So they had to pinch pennies elsewhere. Well, you can pinch pennies when you got a great quarterback, a great
sure. But wouldn't you agree it's a top heavy roster and that like depth wise
they're all going to be when you're paying your top guys.
That's where I think the Ravens roster is a bit different. I think that we have and maybe it's just because I cover the team more, but like part of it is that our player development, I think, is second to none.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it does is it creates, I think that we easily have one of the deepest, most talented rosters top to bottom. Like I think that's not being equated into this argument enough. It's obviously seen here with the Bengals. It's obviously seen here with the Chiefs. Like that matters. Who's your third corner? Who's your, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that matters later on in the season. And you're right.
Are we giving too much credit to the Jets and maybe not enough credit to the Browns? And the Jets lost their quarterback and they were trash.
Right.
Browns lost their quarterback and Joe Flacco led them to the playoffs. So
as far as credit to the roster around the quarterbacks?
Yeah. I mean, not to say that
there's only one Joe Flacco.
That's true. And most teams lose their quarterback for the year.
Remember, the Jets threw Joe Flacco out in the trash after he was leading the league in passing yards.
Well, they had a great backup last year, right?
Wait, who did they have?
Zach Wilson.
Oh, yeah. They had an excellent backup. Right.
Wouldn't want to replace that guy. No, but I mean, look, those are all good rosters. The league continues to be AFC heavy, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I bet if you name the top 10 teams in the league, 7 or 8 of them are in the AFC.
I was going to say 7, but it'd probably be 8 as well. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So
it's like 7 or 8 AFC teams and then the Niners, right?
Yeah. And then the Eagles, but the Eagles also, I can't forget that collapse they had last year.
And I guess you can throw the Packers in there because of their
late season run. That's a good point. And they're young too, man. I like their roster, man. They're young and they're good. Adit says, disappointed.
Didn't you say the same thing, Glenn?
Yeah, we talked about that. Was that on the show or before we hit it?
That was before we hit it, yeah.
Okay. No, that would have been hilarious because, we did see. Now,
would his bike seat have disappeared?
Well, I hope not.
I mean, he would have encompassed it, right?
Oh, I thought you meant it might have slipped on the inside.
No, but I mean, like he's just such a massive human, right?
No, you're right. Yeah, it would have been swallowed up. There wouldn't have, you wouldn't have seen it. But one thing we did see is Lamar almost fall off of his bicycle.
Yeah, can we get Lamar off a bike, please, or put some training wheels on it?
Holy shit. Imagine how that could have totally went sideways if he goes over the handlebars and hurts a shoulder or anything.
And all he can do is laugh at himself, though. That's such one of the things that we had, of course, if you guys don't know, in the first year and a half of us doing the podcast, we had Joshua Harris, who's Lamar Jackson quarterback coach back from he was in high school. If I'm not mistaken, he's been working with Lamar for a long time all through college, was working with him through his first MVP run. One of the things he said about Lamar was that, that was during the jet ski incident too. Mm-hmm. And he was like, Lamar's just a goof. Like, off of the football field, he is clumsy and goofy. And, he's always, tripping over his own feet and stuff like that. It's just weird to watch him off the football field, right? Mm-hmm. And, that just reinforced that part of Lamar. Because, all he can do is laugh at himself. You could tell that this stuff has been happening to him his whole life. He was just like, well, here we go again. You know what I mean? I think you talk about your brother this way and that TJ always spills drinks and
spiller number one. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's got to be Lamar too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember him dunking in I think it was a Dick's Sporting Goods with Hollywood Brown, one of his first seasons here as well. And yeah, I mean, he's just silly. He's a silly guy and I love it, but I'm glad he didn't actually fall. It was only a slip up, but to see Daniel Faalele on a bicycle would have been absolutely hilarious. But it seemed like a good practice, a good joint practice, a win-win, as they say, for both teams. And I'm going to get into some of those notes. I know you said you had to head out of here, Jimbo.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce. I just want to give a quick shout out, of course, to my in-laws who are celebrating their 45th year wedding anniversary. Shout out to them. We're going to take them out to dinner tonight. But I appreciate it, Glenn, holding down the fort. Tomorrow's game is 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we'll be there to break down the game thereafter. Yep. And that's it for me tonight, folks. Enjoy the man of the hour, that being Glenn Martin, the People's Champ, and I will get out of the way. This is what I'll do.
Yeah, that.
Okay. See you, dude.
Appreciate it. Yep. See you, man. Maryland. Full on. insertion. Yes, that's what I'm going to say. What's going on, Sean? He says, happy 45th. Yeah, it's pretty crazy to reach 45 years of marriage. Is pretty insane. What's going on, Tariq? Tank, appreciate you coming out. Jax, thanks for coming out as well. I'm going to keep going here a little bit, guys, because I did want to continue to talk about. Appreciate the happy wishes, Tanja. Appreciate you coming out as well. Haven't seen Don out here tonight, which is odd. I miss Don. And of course, I'll be talking to you guys much more now that I don't have a co-host and I don't have a guest. But I did want to get into some of the notes because we did get to see, or hear about. I didn't get to see much of it, but I did get to hear and see some of the Ravens joint practice with the Green Bay Packers. And some of the stuff early on was pretty cool to see. First and foremost, to see the amount of Ravens fans in the middle of Cheesehead Nation showing love to their team was absolutely awesome to see. It was super, super cool. And to see the way they do things, I think it's always cool to get a good glimpse at how other good organizations do things. And I mean, I don't think I'm breaking any news saying that the Green Bay Packers are a good organization, and they showed that with this joint practice. It was awesome to see. Both the respectful Cheesehead fans I saw their comments in some of the videos, and they talked about the class of the Ravens organization, how it was good to have two teams. Because look, we've seen a lot of these joint practices around the league, and these guys are beating the hell out of each other. They're fighting. They can't get through a good practice. You can't expect to put good work on if you can't stop fighting each other. So the fact that they got through this joint practice while it was physical, super intense, super competitive, but nobody was fighting, I think was awesome. Because look, I mean, that was always one of my things when I was growing up in sports that I hated. I could always compete like crazy, and I didn't have to want to fight the person across from me. And it was always frustrating that some people, especially if they're losing or have lost the battle, they go right to the fighting. And it's just frustrating. So it was cool to see a cordial practice surrounded by fans on both sides. But let's get to what happened on the field, because there's a lot of news and notes coming out. Some good, some bad. And so I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of it. So the one thing that we saw that was a bit concerning on the defensive side of the ball is Kyle Hamilton had an injury to his hip where he was one-on-one against wide receiver Christian Watson, as the speedster, a really talented player for Green Bay. And they had a one-on-one rep where he kind of fell uncomfortably, it looked like on his left hip, which caused him to go down for a little bit, but then ultimately gets up and walks off and continues to stay on the field, but ultimately does not participate in practice. John Harbaugh did say it was a minor injury, but always concerning to see one of your best players, one of your leaders, go down. But let's just hope that it is just that, a minor injury, and that he's fine and he's going to be back out there. But as far as some news and notes it was positive. Let's see. Brandon Stevens, super sticky in coverage throughout red zone drills. Did give up a touchdown, but I mean, it was just it was one of those phenomenal plays where the receiver just won the jump ball, but the guy was sticky. He was there. And let's be honest, if you want to just compare wide receiver rooms, the Packers are one of the very best in the league. And what's crazy about how good they are is that they're all super, super young. So like top to bottom, I think when they made the playoffs, the Packers made the playoffs last year, I believe they were the youngest team in history to make the playoffs. And not only did they make the playoffs, they went into Jerry World and beat the Cowboys and beat the hell out of the Cowboys. So this is a really, really good team. A really good team last year that made the playoffs. That was also the youngest team ever, meaning it's not like it was a collection of high, super talented veterans where you expect maybe the next year, maybe them to maybe take a dip. This is a collection of incredibly talented young players. So if they were really good last year and they're all young, you expect their trajectory that they could most likely be even better this year, barring any crazy injuries. But this is a really, really good roster. Let me see here. On defense, also on 11-on-11 drills, the defense had a bunch of takeaways, bunch of big plays. Roquan Smith had a fantastic leaping interception over the middle, which I guess should come as not much of a surprise. That's what Roquan does. He's not just good as run defender. He's also good in coverage. Justin Madubuike and Odafe Owe were consistently pressuring the quarterback. Michael Pierce got his hands on a ball. And so the defense was doing their thing like you would expect. And yes, the offensive side from the Packers had their moments as well, which again, young, talented, really good players. But certainly the Ravens defense had their moments. And by the way, guys, I'm getting a lot of these news and notes from, again, members of the media. So the particular members I'm using for their notes today is Brian Wacker and Gianna Hahn, who were traveling with the team. And these are notes directly from what they saw in practice. On the offensive side of the ball, I will say we did not see Nelson Aguilar. We did not see Tyler Linderbaum. And we did not see Mark Andrews as they continue to nurse, depending on who you're talking about, little injuries. Some it looks like Linderbaum, he's been out for about 2 weeks. So his, I guess, could be considered a little bit more severe. But hopefully he's on his way back and we'll be back out here pretty soon. Let's see here. Looks like Lamar had a bit of an up and down practice. The same can be said with the offensive line, who had some struggles, but also had some really good moments. Did deal with a couple of false starts, which again, this is why you have these practices, right? Like these are oftentimes, described as better than preseason games, because in the preseason games, of course, if you're a Ravens fan, majority of number ones didn't play. The only number ones that played were those who were kind of fringe number ones, new starters, guys like Trenton Simpson, and Nate Wiggins, rookies or second year guy, Faalele, who's not a rookie, but a young presumed starter now on the offensive line. So what these joint practices do is it gives an opportunity for coaches to see ones versus ones, especially opponent ones who may teach technique different, who may, structure their defense different and give completely different looks than what the defense here in-house can do. So it's an awesome thing to see ones versus ones in, pass rush one-on-one, wide receiver versus corner one-on-one. You won't see that in the preseason. We wouldn't be able to gauge how our number ones perform until the week one. So this is the best way to do it. It's also a much more controlled setting, whereas you don't have to worry about your right tackle necessarily getting rolled up on if he's doing a one-on-one drill. So it's got a lot of advantages without the risks that a full-on preseason game brings with them. So, this is for a young offensive line. I mean, we saw notes. I'm looking at a note right here of Roger Rosengarten absolutely stonewalling Rashawn Gary, who, if you're a fan of all these teams, you certainly know that name. You know what type of player that guy is. To be able to stonewall the bull rush that he could bring should alleviate some concerns about Roger Rosengarten going forward. Like, if you can stonewall those and you have an anchor that can support a guy like Rashawn Gary's bull rush, then your issue isn't that you can't anchor. He might have other issues, certainly needs to continue to develop his technique, but it's not like, wow, this guy can't anchor. He's not strong enough. He's not going to be able to be a day one contributor. No, we're not going to have that problem. Roger held his own against one of the very, very best. So, and look, there was some moments where Lamar was running. He was running around yesterday, trying to get away from Packers defenders. There's no doubt about it. However, I will say this is a young offensive line. It still needs to continue to practice and play together to build chemistry, to improve their technique. And so this is probably still, every day I'm going to say this is the worst we're going to see of this offensive line, unless there's a massive injury that hits this offensive line. They're every day going to get incrementally better. It's not an old group who could risk getting worse as they get older. Their body starts to break down. Now, this is a young offensive line that we can expect that this was the worst version. Now, maybe the day before was worse, but this is the worst version that the Packers will definitely see, because they're only going to get better. So, yeah, there were moments where Lamar Jackson was put under pressure, and the young offensive line, did give up some pressures. But Lamar Jackson was also holding the ball longer than he typically would in a game. He was hesitant to just take off and run, because he's working on, getting the ball down the field, getting into his pass catcher's hands, trying to continue to give the offensive line more opportunities to pass block. So it's not a direct representation of what would happen on a game day, whereas Lamar might have been more likely to get up out of there quicker. And again, that changes the pass rush goal, right? Like the guys can't just pin their ears back and go crazy when Lamar shows, hey, I'll run right by you. You're going to give up that. You're going to go wide and try and beat and speed rush my new right tackle. Okay, I'll just run right behind you and skedaddle on out of there. So Lamar wasn't doing what he typically would, and that did lead to some pressures. However, the reports I'm seeing is that the offensive line was very solid. There was, again, moments where it didn't look great, but they will continue to get better. And like Coach said, 90% of the time they held up, they played well. But look, there's no doubt there's going to be some growing pains, guys, with this offensive line. It's going to be head scratching, and it's going to make you shake your head. But let's remember this: John Simpson had a career resurgence here in Baltimore. There was no great call for John Simpson elsewhere last year. But what did he do? He came here, and to his credit, he worked his ass off. But he's still John Simpson. He's still the same guy. He still struggled mightily in pass protection. But Lamar Jackson simply makes everyone better around him. He elevates the game just because the pass rush plan by the defender changes dramatically when he's rushing a guy like Lamar Jackson versus a pocket statue like Joe Flacco. It's just totally different. They cannot rush the same way. So he's going to elevate the play just from him being on the field with Lamar Jackson. His play will elevate. So don't get too concerned by, oh man, these guys, I don't know if they can do it. John Simpson he got a massive, he got his money because Lamar Jackson made him look way better. And that's not going to stop this year. Like Vorhees is going to look a lot better in a Ravens uniform than he would likely elsewhere because of the pass rush plan. So I feel good about these young guys, especially like what Cole mentioned earlier about what we saw from Roger and his ability to pass protect without getting help from a chipping a tight end or running back. It's exciting to hear. So I believe in our young guys. I will say this. I'm curious to know what the chat thinks. Yeah, there we go. Look at Richard France in the chat. Appreciate you jumping in. Don C., there you are. You didn't miss. No family fun story. I will say I did. I don't have any fun stories. I did go to the beach yesterday for a day trip. It was an absolute blast. Ocean City, took some people from Texas, had never been. And it was a blast. But I'm trying to think. I don't think anything silly happened out there. But maybe it'll come to me in a little bit. But I'm curious. Is there anyone you guys want to see in tomorrow's third and final preseason game? Exactly, John Jay. Forgotten is perfect. John Simpson was a forgotten player. You're right. People didn't care about John Simpson. Look, everybody thought Ben Powers couldn't play. You put Lamar Jackson behind him, all of a sudden he gets a massive contract from the Broncos. So, yeah, he will. And same with Morgan Moses. Like, Morgan Moses was able to get through a whole season with a torn pec. And credit him. But also, I think there's no doubt that Lamar Jackson helped with that. Okay, Jack says TJ Tampa. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome to see some of TJ Tampa. We haven't seen a ton of him. He's been banged up. He had the hernia surgery, I believe that was TJ. So he's still coming back from that. So let's see a lot of him. I expect him to be a contributor this year as long as health allows it. And man, Don C continues to be and grow his legend. 5 more gifted memberships, guys. Make sure you accept it. I think you have to. But man, legend. Appreciate it, Don. You're the man. Thanks for coming out. Sorry I didn't see Victoria yet, but hopefully she'll be out here at some point. If not, catch the replay. Thanks again, Don. You're the man. Appreciate you. Maryland texted Adisa Isaac. A little concerned if we'll see him because we did not see him at the joint practices. He's still dealing with a hamstring injury. And yeah, I would have loved to see Adisa Isaac because what I did see was absolutely phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. The motor, his ability to play with physicality as a rookie. Like, he didn't look like a rookie out there. Like, he looked huge, absolutely huge. Like, did not look like a guy who, like Roger, where we're like, yes, he's got the athleticism, but he needs to put on the muscle. It looked like he's got it day one when it comes to that. Definitely has some technique he's got to work on. But, yeah, I've been impressed with what I've seen. just need to see more of him, and hopefully he can get out there. But a little concerning that he missed this joint practice. That would have been a real nice. That would have been nice for him to get those kinds of reps. But Don C mentions Kadir. Yes, Kadir Ismail. I want to see a lot more of him. That dude is a fluid athlete. He's massive. He can run routes. He's caught every ball thrown his way, as far as I'm concerned. Did have that fumble, which he was able to jump back on. That was a heck of a pop. But Kadir Ismail is a natural, fluid athlete at that size. And, of course, his ceiling this year, in my opinion, was always the practice squad. But, man, you want to talk about a guy who in the future, next year, because, look, there's a lot of good tight ends on this roster. The question, they're probably only going to sign one of these guys. And so their choice is going to be between Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely once that time comes. It's not going to be both, right? You can't pay both your tight ends. Those guys are both going to make big, big bucks. So that'll be the perfect time for a guy like Kadir, who's will have a year to continue to build his body out, to continue to put muscle in his body, and hopefully not lose the fluidity and the speed that we've seen thus far. Because, man, I have high expectation. When your dad is the wide receiver one of a Super Bowl winning football team, then you got no excuses to not get better. And I expect him to get better, especially when your dad is an active trainer. Like, it's not like his dad, after he retired, just let himself fall off and just gained a bunch of weight, which we have seen around the league. You know, guys are like, look, I've done enough of working out. I'm done. And we've seen him like, whoa, I almost didn't recognize him. Put on some pounds and he stopped running. No, Kadri is still very much so involved in training high-level athletes, so I expect him to get the very best. I did see somebody put, let me see here. Marcus says, more big plays from Dayton Wade. Absolutely. Let's keep throwing this guy the ball because he certainly knows what to do with it once he gets it in his hands. This guy is he's something else, man. Don't sleep on what type of impact. It's going to be a tough uphill climb for him to make this roster. We went over the list. It's tough. But don't be surprised if he's not here, he's elsewhere. I mean, because they're going to have to make some tough cuts. He might ultimately end up being one of them. But I hope for his sake that he puts on a show, enough of a show where if he's not here, then he's elsewhere, because he certainly has deserved it thus far. He's done anything and everything you could ask from an undrafted rookie. And let's hope that he continues to put on a show. Let's see. Tylan Wallace is truth teller. Tylan Wallace ain't going anywhere. Every time we've seen him, because you got to play some of your vets, right? You're not going to play Zay. You're not going to play Nelson. You're not, there's certain guys you're not going to play. You're not going to play Bateman, but they'll play Tylan because they have to. They ran out of numbers. But every time he's been out there, he's looked like a veteran going up against either a young guy or a guy who's not going to be in the league. He's taken every one of these guys to school. And not only that, he had the game-winning punt return last year against the Rams, which was one of the best games of the season. So we know we can do as a return guy. So yeah, there's no way Tylan Wallace is gone. If it is, it's a freaking shame and a travesty, because he's certainly proven that he is a pro. There's no doubt about it. And when you have versatility as a return man on top of that, and have shown success where you have a game winning, yeah, there ain't no way he's going anywhere. I appreciate the comment though. But yeah, he's going to be sticking around. My only question is, what do we see on the offensive line, right? Like, are we done with I think we should be done with I'm good. I've seen enough of Roger, and I'm okay with letting him be the week one starter, not seeing him at all in the final preseason game. But I'm not so sure if I can say the same about everyone else on the offensive line. Like, I don't know. Like, is it valuable to continue to put Faalele back out there, and even Vorhees, and risk the fact that they could get hurt, they could get injured? Are you gaining enough experience and is there enough reward to outweigh the risk of putting those guys out there? I'm not really sure about that. Truth teller, he popped way more in he had the game-winning kick return or punt return last year. And he hasn't had a lot of opportunities as a pass catcher because he's had guys over him, deservedly. But yeah, I think he's made this team. But as far as the offensive line, oh man, I'm so uncertain as to whether I want to see Faalele and Vorhees out there. Maybe not. I tell you what, not Vorhees, but let me see another week of Faalele. Let me just see another one, even if it's only a quarter. Let me see it. I got to see what you got. Because I just got to see it. After Jam, who's the best player? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sean. I was trying to follow along. Yeah, I mean, Jack says, should McCary be the week 1 starter? I don't think so. And I don't know about easily our best offensive lineman. I mean, I guess if you count how versatile he is and just the total package that he is, okay, I'll give you that. But I don't think he's our best right tackle right now. I think Roger is. And I think there's no doubt that Roger has the higher ceiling than McCary. I don't think there's even a question of that. So I want to keep McCary as the Swiss Army knife. I know it's like, I don't want to see him as the week 1 starter. I don't think his back can hold up as a starter as it is. I think the team believes that also. But we could see Jax we could see a committee at right tackle, which Cole's not in favor of, but we saw it last year at both tackle spots on occasions at times. And we could see, at least in the early parts of the season, but I don't really understand it. Why, like back then, like last year, I could get it because of the injury issues and this wouldn't really make a ton of sense to me to do it this way, because it's not like Roger has like we're not like, oh, he's nursing a pec like Moses or he's got the bum leg like Ronnie. Nah, he's fine. So I don't really see the point in it, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them do it because there's the precedent has already been set that they will do it and have done it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to see any Trenton Simpson. I can tell you that. Seen enough. I would love to see a full game of Chris Board and Josh Ross, because those two are now at this point. I mean, I guess Malik Harrison is the starter if, like, say one of the Rowe or Trenton were to go down. But at some point, we're going to have to rely on Chris Board or Josh Ross to play some linebacker and not just be special teamers. So, yeah, let's see a full game of those guys. We know we got Malik. We don't need him out there. But who else are you guys looking at? What was Yeah, that's a good question, Marcus. What the hell was Tyus Bowser's injury? And why the hell isn't Cleveland starting at guard? Yeah, I'm with you. I think those are really good questions. And I don't think anyone's going to give us those answers. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's like we talked about before with Cleveland. Every time we've seen him play, he hasn't been bad. He's had moments where, I'm sure he'd like to have that rep back, but he's also had really, really good moments. And so it's puzzling. It's got to be. It's like I struggle to say it's got to be personality, because how could it be, right? Like, it's football. Like, are you really grading guys on their personality? But maybe it's what Jeff Zrebiec said in his most recent tweets about the situation, that his practice habits, so-called maybe lazy reps in practice, drive the coaches nutty. It just makes them insane to the point where they go, I'm not going to continue to watch this guy disrespect us and his teammates around him who are busting their ass by putting lazy reps out there. Like, I think that might actually be it. Like, because when you just watch his tape, or even you watch it, or you just see the grades that come out from PFF that are, supposed to be, non-biased and data-driven, it's not bad. Like, so it has to be that Jeff's right, that it's the practice habits drive the coaches crazy, and they probably look at it as a form of disrespect to them and most importantly to their teammates who are battling their ass off and going, we want you to just simply mirror their effort level, and this all goes away. And maybe that's just something he doesn't. Maybe he just doesn't show them. I don't know. What the hell was? Yes, Maggie. What the hell was Tyus Bowser's injury? I'd love to know. It's like in a vault somewhere, like the secret, like the herbs and spices from KFC and the Coca-Cola ingredients. They don't want anyone to know what the hell happened to Tyus Bowser. But if you bump into him, guys, you run into him at an airport or something, pin him down, bring your cell phone out, ask him the question. We need to know. It's crazy. What the hell happened to this guy? Because he used to be really good, and it was so versatile. Dropping coverage, rush the passer, stack against the run. He could do it all. But yeah, it's frustrating. Maryland, Texas, Ajabo needs them cows. Oh my God. Ajabo is one of those. Yes, he needs the reps, right? We haven't seen a lot of them. He needs them. But I'm so scared to put him out there. But look, I'm not going to let fear, I'm going to throw that away. I'm going to throw it away. I'm not going to let fear change my decision. He needs to be out there. He does. If for nothing else, he's got to gain some play experience. He just has virtually none at this level. And what we saw from him last week was certainly encouraging, but I need to see more of it. And yeah, so let's see Ajabo. I'll give you that. We got to see Ajabo. And you can't continue to go, oh, but what if he gets hurt? He hasn't shown enough to earn that. Like, he hasn't earned that kind of respect just yet. Marcus says, how do you like what you're seeing from Armour Davis? I liked it. I think we've all hoped and wished for a healthy preseason and training camp because he's got all the physical tools. Like, I remember when he came out, the scouting service, I think Chris Sims, who, a lot of times goes against the trends, of what these guys, the rankings. He does his own rankings, and sometimes it's totally wildly different from the consensus. And oftentimes he's right. He had Armour Davis as like his one of the top 3 corners in the entire draft that year. And we got him late. And I think the reason we got him late is because of the injury issues, because there's no doubt he's got the frame, he's got the want to, he's got the skills. It's just he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So what we've seen this year is he has been able to stay on the field. It's been encouraging. It's been awesome to see. Now his problem is his is there enough spots on this roster for me? Because there is a lot, guys, a lot of good DBs. And I'll say DBs because a lot of them are listed as safeties on the roster, but do a whole hell of a lot of cornerback play. I mean, our Darius Washington is a prime example. He's going to be a big, big part of our nickel, especially with Arthur Marlette down. And he's listed as a safety, not listed as a corner. But there is so many corners that are, I would say, locks on this roster, and maybe only a couple battling for those last spots because Marlon's here, not going anywhere. Brandon Stevens, obviously, Nate Wiggins, TJ Tampa, Pepe Williams. Like, those are locks. They keep at most 6. And then, like I said, you gotta put you really got to group the DBs you got to group the corners and the safeties as a group and just say DBs. And then you go, well, how many DBs do they keep? Well, they typically keep 6 corners and somewhere around 3 to 4 safeties. Well, so you're saying at most 10 DBs? Well, that's a lot of good ones here. I'm going to put it up right here. And you're right. You do need a secondary. But you need the rest of your team. You can't, and this is the part that's tough because we've seen such stud play from guys like, our safeties like Bo Braid and late round draft pick Sanusi Kane. It's like, how are you going to cut those guys? Well, I'll kind of show you how. It's like you don't really have a choice, which is, it's sad. And you hope these guys can maybe get through to the practice squad. But just look at this group. Like, even Bump Cooper has been turning heads and had a fantastic pass break up in the corner of the end zone. But Marlon ain't going nowhere. Marlette is making this team. Brandon Stevens, TJ Tampa, Nate Wiggins, Pepe, they're making this team. And then you go down to safety and you go, well, Kyle Hamilton, Eddie Jackson, and Marcus Williams are making the team. Our Darius certainly has looked good this camp and is a fantastic slot corner. And with Marlette down, makes his job, I think, a little more secure. Sanusi Kane looked like our best open field tackler while we saw him on the field. This guy was absolutely thumping dudes. He's been nothing but impressive when we've seen him. And then Bo Braid, if you want to talk about a defensive MVP of the preseason, it's been Bo Braid, and this is not even close. This guy's hitting people. He's making tackles, not just on defense, but as a gunner and kick coverage. And then he had that diving interception that for some reason they called incomplete. I still to this day, that's a pick. That's hands right there. Laying out, scooping the ball off the turf. This guy's been nothing but incredible. And then Daryl Worley. Daryl Worley is a vet. You talk about taking over from Kocat when he retired. That's the guy. Like, you can't fit all these guys. It's just too many guys. So it's like, who are you going to cut? Trayvon Mullen's been having a great camp. Like, yeah, some people say Kadar Hallman's going to be the 6th guy because of his experience level and kind of his play so far. So, yeah, man, it's Jalen Armour Davis, while playing well, has I think his work cut out for him to make this team. But I'll be rooting for him because I think he's a hell of a player. Joseph says, "Hey Glenn, should I draft any Ravens in fantasy?" Oh, hell yeah. There's a lot of good ones, Joseph. I mean, certainly Lamar Jackson is a fantastic pick and going to be, I mean, he has the potential and the ability to be QB1 at the end of the year. There's no doubt about it. When you look at what he does on the ground and through the air, his touchdown ability to create touchdowns again through the air and also on the ground, he's got QB1 potential. Now, as far as when your QBs in your league go, I guess that depends on the settings and kind of how your teams go. But he's going to be in competition for QB1, no doubt. Derrick Henry has had 10 touchdowns or more for how many years straight? And he just went to a team that had Gus Edwards have, a dozen? So Derrick Henry absolutely has an opportunity to go, I think, 12 to 1,400 yards, 12 to 15 touchdowns is very reasonable expectation. I think he should be one of the, I think the top running backs are probably CMC, Breece Hall, Bijan. And the thing that hurts Derrick Henry, it's always hurt Derrick Henry over his career, is his lack of pass catching. Like, he just doesn't catch a lot of balls. So if you're in a PPR league, even a half-point PPR league, 3 or 4 catches from your running back, which you can count on from a lot of guys around the league, that can sometimes be the difference of you winning or losing a week. So, to your point, Joseph, absolutely him. Mark Andrews continues to be a ADP sleeper in this year's drafts. When you look at the average draft position for Mark Andrews, I think people forgot just how good that guy really is. Like, he's getting picked well behind tight ends that I think he's going to lap when it comes to his production level. And I know Isaiah is going to eat into some of that, but let me tell you right now, when the chips are hitting the ground, Lamar Jackson's favorite target is Mark Andrews. It just is. I mean, Zay over Zay Flowers, over all the guys, 89. It's his guy. He loves that guy. And then, I think Zay Flowers is going to be an absolute steal. He is the bona fide, clear-cut number 1 wide receiver on this team. I think the Ravens will do a good job of getting him the ball in multiple areas, short, intermediate, and deep. And that's the part that's important, the deep ball, because we didn't see a ton of that last year. We saw him getting the ball a lot short, make some guys miss, make it happen. But we didn't see that connection on the deep ball. They've been working on that like crazy. And if the chunk plays start, man, Zay Flowers' ceiling is insane. What is it? His ceiling is the roof. Who said that? Somebody said that. Crazy ceiling. And I think some later round picks, you can certainly get some good value with Rashad Bateman. It's a risk, but if he stays healthy, you could get some good value. And then super, super late, I think Nelson Aguilar is a good late round pick because of his touchdown to snap count ratio is pretty impressive. Like, the guy gets more touchdowns than most people who share his snap count total. So yeah, hope that answer. And then, of course, the Ravens defense, if you play in a traditional league, pick the Ravens defense. They're going to be hella good, just like they are every year. I mean, last year they were the greatest, I think, like in the sense that they led the league in points, turnovers, and sacks, which I don't know if that's ever been done, the triple threat. So don't expect maybe that, but this is going to be a really good defense. And, of course, Justin Tucker's the best kicker in the league. Appreciate the comment, Joseph. I hope I answered your question. But yeah, I mean, this is an exciting game. It's 1:00 tomorrow, which I don't like. I'm not a fan of. Absolutely, I would put him on my list, Lisa Ann. Lamar? Oh, absolutely. Oh, for sure. Got to. He's just that guy. But yeah, tomorrow's game, it should be the least. I expect the least amount of starters that we see. If you see any, that'll tell you that I think they're fringe guys. So expect to see a game full of backups, but it's still going to be fun to see. You're still going to get 100% effort out of all these guys. Some of these guys are playing their last organized football. So it's also a bit bittersweet for some of these guys out here, and expect them to kind of lay it all on the line as maybe their last opportunity to play organized sports. So exciting day. Some of these guys first time at Lambeau. I've never been to Lambeau. I would love to make it to Lambeau. It's one of those bucket list things. Fingers crossed that I can somehow make it happen before I before I kick it, and hopefully it won't be in the later months where it's frozen tundra. I don't need all that. I'll go there for a September game if I can make it happen. But yeah, we'll obviously be back for the post game thoughts and let us know what we thought, and of course hope you guys are there as well. That's it for us tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, click the notification bell, and of course subscribe. That way we can keep you up to date on all your Ravens news. That's it for us tonight. Have a good one. We'll talk soon. See you.